Mike and Carrie Armstrong thought they had it all figured out. Living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they felt their lives were finally complete when their baby girl, Maxine, was born. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video. From the moment Mike first held her tiny hands, he felt like the luckiest man alive. He used to dream of having a daughter, someone he could one day take to a Pittsburgh Steelers game, wrapped in a little jersey with a smile as bright as the stadium lights. Those dreams were coming true, and every giggle and playful glance from Maxine seemed like a blessing. But as the first year of parenthood rolled by, life brought with it a complication. Carrie had to return to work, and the couple needed someone they could trust to look after Maxine during the day. The idea of a daycare didn't sit right with Carrie. The thought of her daughter being surrounded by strangers at such a young age made her uneasy. So she suggested what seemed like the most natural solution: her mother, Eleanor. Eleanor loved Maxine dearly, and Maxine adored her grandmother. To Carrie, it felt like the perfect arrangement. But Mike had his doubts. He respected Eleanor, but he also knew she had a way of pushing her own ideas, sometimes interfering more than necessary. Still, wanting to support his wife and knowing Maxine was happy around her grandma, Mike reluctantly agreed. What he didn't realize then was how much that decision would change everything. At first, things seemed fine. Eleanor's babysitting gave the couple peace of mind, and Maxine seemed to enjoy her grandmother's company. But slowly, small changes crept in, subtle at first, easy to dismiss. Mike noticed that when he came home from work, his once lively and playful daughter was unusually tired. Instead of giggling in his arms, she often sat quietly, almost detached. Her bright eyes had lost some of their sparkle. As the days passed, this became a troubling pattern. Maxine seemed permanently exhausted, her once joyful personality replaced with lethargy. Concerned, Mike suggested they take her to the pediatrician. After a careful examination, the doctor assured them everything looked normal, explaining it might just be teething. Relieved but not fully convinced, Mike tried to brush aside his fears. For a brief moment, hope returned when Maxine had 2 days of laughter and energy again, but then, just as quickly, she fell back into her sluggish state. Mike's instincts told him something wasn't right. He couldn't shake the thought that Maxine's odd behavior started right after Eleanor began babysitting. He confided his worries to Carrie, but she didn't see the same drastic changes. She trusted her mom completely. "The doctor said it's fine, Mike," she insisted. "It's just teething." But Mike couldn't ignore what he saw. His little girl wasn't the same. Every weekend, when Eleanor wasn't around, Maxine seemed better still, not her old self, but more alive. Yet by Monday evening, after a day with Eleanor, she was back to being pale and listless. Unable to ignore the signs, Mike confronted Eleanor. She insisted she was taking good care of Maxine, assuring him there was nothing to worry about. Then she revealed something surprising. She had been adding special herbal teas to Maxine's juice to help her general well-being. At first, Mike was alarmed. Giving herbal remedies to a 1-year-old? But after researching, he found that small amounts of mild herbal teas usually weren't harmful. Still, the unease lingered. He wanted to believe Eleanor's intentions were good, but his father's instinct whispered otherwise. Weeks passed, and Maxine's condition worsened. Her weight dropped, her skin grew pale, and her once bright eyes seemed vacant. Fear gripped Mike's heart. This was no longer just about teething or harmless remedies. Something was deeply wrong. Carrie suggested another visit to the pediatrician, but Eleanor pushed back fiercely. "Just give it time," she insisted. "The herbs will help her heal." Torn between his wife's loyalty to her mother and his own gnawing doubts, Mike decided to act on his own. One morning, while Eleanor wasn't around, he scooped Maxine up in his arms and rushed her to the doctor. His gut told him this was the right thing to do, and what the doctor discovered confirmed Mike's worst fears. The pediatrician's face grew serious as he examined Maxine. Tests revealed she wasn't just tired, she was suffering from acute malnutrition. Her body wasn't getting what it needed to grow and thrive. She was immediately admitted to the hospital. Mike's world shattered as he sat in the waiting room, holding back tears, wondering how he could have let it get this far. His little girl, his everything, was fighting for her life. Carrie arrived at the hospital, pale and trembling, as the doctor explained the situation. Both parents were devastated. They thought they had been doing everything right, making sure Maxine had proper meals, following medical advice, but the reality was clear. Something during the day, under Eleanor's care, was sabotaging their daughter's health. Mike replayed the pieces in his mind. The lethargy, the weight loss, the pale skin. His thoughts turned to the herbal teas. Could Eleanor have been adding something else? Something harmful? He didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was overwhelming. As Maxine lay in the hospital bed, connected to tubes and machines, Carrie wept at her side. Mike sat silently beside them, a storm of anger and guilt raging inside. He had wanted to trust Eleanor, to give her the benefit of the doubt. But now, watching his fragile daughter fight to recover, he realized his hesitation might have cost them dearly. The doctor's words rang in his ears. "She's malnourished, but we're treating it. With care, she will recover. You did the right thing bringing her here when you did." Mike squeezed Carrie's hand, whispering, "We'll get through this. She's going to be okay." But deep down, he knew their lives and their relationship with Eleanor would never be the same again. The days that followed were some of the hardest Mike and Carrie had ever faced. Maxine remained in the hospital, her tiny body fighting to regain strength. Nurses and doctors worked tirelessly, feeding her carefully measured nutrients through IV lines and monitoring every heartbeat, every breath. Mike barely slept. He sat by her side every night, whispering stories about the future they'd still have together, trips to the zoo, bedtime stories, teaching her how to ride a bike. Carrie, too, spent every waking hour at Maxine's bedside, torn between guilt for not listening sooner and gratitude that her daughter was finally safe. But in the shadows of their worry, one question lingered like a storm cloud. What had Eleanor been doing to Maxine? When Eleanor visited the hospital, she brushed off their accusations, insisting she had done nothing wrong. "Those herbs are natural. They've been used for generations. I was only helping," she claimed. But the doctor quickly set the record straight. Whatever Eleanor had been giving, Maxine wasn't nourishing her body, it was starving it. The teas and concoctions she prepared had replaced proper meals, leaving the little girl dangerously deficient in vital nutrients. Carrie's heart broke as she listened. This was her own mother, the woman who raised her, the grandmother she trusted with her baby. And yet, that trust had nearly cost Maxine her life. For Mike, the anger was overwhelming. He wanted answers, but more than that, he wanted accountability. His father's instinct had been right all along, and now he vowed never to doubt it again. After 2 agonizing weeks, Maxine finally began to recover. Her cheeks regained color, her laughter slowly returned, and her little hands once again reached for her parents. Seeing her smile was like sunlight breaking through a storm. The doctors assured them she was out of immediate danger, though she would need ongoing care to fully heal. But recovery for the family wasn't just about Maxine, it was also about confronting Eleanor. When Mike and Carrie sat her down, Carrie's voice trembled as she said, "Mom, you can't be around Maxine unsupervised anymore." Eleanor's face crumpled in disbelief. She tried to argue, to defend herself, but the damage was undeniable. The tension tore through the family like an earthquake. Carrie felt caught between her husband and her mother, but in the end, she chose Maxine. "My daughter comes first," she told Eleanor. Always. The situation escalated further when doctors suggested reporting the incident to Child Services. While Eleanor hadn't intended harm, her actions had endangered Maxine's life. The case became a matter of neglect, and Eleanor was investigated. For Carrie, the heartbreak of seeing her mother under scrutiny was almost unbearable, but she knew it had to be done. As weeks turned into months, Maxine blossomed again. With proper care, she grew stronger, more active, her laughter filling the Armstrong home once more. Mike and Carrie poured all their love into her, determined never to let anything threaten her again. Looking back, Mike often thought about how close they came to losing her. The memory of his pale, fragile daughter lying in that hospital bed still haunted him, but it also strengthened him. He realized that being a parent meant trusting your instincts even when others doubted you. For Carrie, the lesson was equally profound. Love and trust were important, but blind faith could be dangerous. She loved her mother, but she had learned a painful truth. Sometimes even family could make terrible mistakes. As they celebrated Maxine's 2nd birthday, watching her blow out the candles with a bright smile, Mike and Carrie held each other tightly. The road had been difficult, but their daughter was alive, thriving, and safe. That was all that mattered. In the end, the Armstrongs emerged stronger, their bond as a family unshakable.